Welcome to Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff, and on today's show, we are going to take a look at some updated Miami Dolphins free agency targets. We are officially 1 week into free agency. Miami has made a lot of different signings, but there are still a lot of different needs on this Dolphins roster and some solid free agents still on the open market. So we are going to take a look at the top one still available on today's show. Miami desperately needs some help at defensive line. It needs help at corner. It needs help at safety still, left guard, and you can argue tight end too as well. That is how I rank the top needs for Miami. It's a 1A, 1B type thing for defensive line and corner. There is one defensive lineman on the roster right now. That's Zach Sieler. You need an opposite boundary corner to Jalen Ramsey. Cater Coe is going to be that nickel guy, but I don't trust Storm Duck, Ethan Bonner, or Cam Smith. And then you still need to get that left guard to complete your offensive line. And I also think you still need that number one safety. Before we get into the free agent targets still out there, make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you are notified and part of that Noti gang, because when the Dolphins make a signing, we will make a video and have you covered. So hit that sub button and make sure you click all when notifications not personalized so you never miss a beat. All right, the number one defensive line target for me and the number one overall free agent target for me personally is a player that was on the team last year in Calais Campbell. He has been very open about not knowing what his future holds. He may retire. He may return to play another season in the National Football League. He was outstanding for Miami last season in his age 37 season. 5 sacks. He played in every single game, played over 50% of the snaps for the Dolphins, and he really just put a nice, solid, kind of stability to your defensive line. Zach Sieler was awesome. Him and Campbell worked great hand in hand. And I think you just need to bring him back. And I actually do believe, based off everything that I've read and seen and heard on social media, is that the number one thing that Miami wants to do for the rest of the offseason is to re-sign Calais Campbell. It's just all about Calais officially making that decision to not retire and return to the NFL. Feels like there's mutual interest there. And as I mentioned, you only have one defensive lineman on your depth chart right now. That is Zach Sieler. That's got a standard contract. Need to get a veteran piece that can mentor a rookie that you draft in the first 3 rounds in the late April NFL draft, but also be a productive player this season. Number 2 on my list, we go to that cornerback spot that Miami desperately needs. I'm going with Asante Samuel Jr., the corner that played for the Los Angeles Chargers, and he battled injuries all last season, did not play a lot, and he is a little bit of a smaller player, 5'10", 180, but he is a physical man-to-man corner. Yeah, some people think he's a nickel. That is not the case. He is a boundary corner through and through, and I know he has dealt with shoulder injuries and been in and out of the lineup quite a bit for the Los Angeles Chargers, but I think he would be a relatively cheap option. You might be able to get him on a 1-year deal, because if he's still out there in free agency, there's obviously not a big market for Samuel with that injury history, so if you can get him on a 1-year kind of rehab his value type of contract, it would be a great move for Miami to kind of just give you a little breath of fresh air. And if he plays well, you can extend him anyway. All right, I gave you my 2 top free agents right now available for the Miami Dolphins. Let me know who is your top free agent target for Chris Grier in Miami. You know what the Dolphins need on their roster. Who is your top name out there? I'm going to stay in the cornerback room here. Asante Samuel Jr. is my number 2. Well, my number 3 is Rasul Douglas, who has played for the Buffalo Bills the past year and a half, was excellent for Buffalo after being acquired at the trade deadline from the Green Bay Packers in 2023. Had a pretty solid 2024 campaign as well. He is mostly a zone corner, so you wonder if he would fit in Miami, because the Dolphins do like to run a lot of exotic looks, whether it's zone blitzes, man-to-man. I do think Douglas would be able to kind of stabilize that number 2 corner spot. And like I said, I still think Miami's going to draft one in this NFL draft. So he would be able to mentor them alongside Jalen Ramsey. It would be a good veteran room. But you see, Douglas has good size, 6'2", 209. He's a veteran, but I really like him potentially being added to this group. We'll go to the offensive line here. My number 1 offensive line target at this point, it's Brandon Scherff. Scherff is someone who has been in the league for a long time, and when you think of what the Dolphins have on the offensive line right now, you have a second-year pick in Patrick Paul, basically playing his first full season at left tackle in the NFL this upcoming year. You have Aaron Brewer at center, you have James Anderson at right guard, and Austin Jackson at right tackle. So when you talk about making and finalizing this offensive line, I would like a veteran on that left guard spot, one that can really help shore up that left side with Patrick Paul. Because even though I would be very open to drafting a top prospect on the O-line and starting him at left guard, having a rookie left guard and basically a brand new left tackle playing his first full season there would make me a little bit nervous. Scherff has played a lot. He's been effective, played all 17 games last season, didn't allow a sack for Jacksonville. He is currently my number one offensive line target, and I think he won't be that expensive. You saw Kevin Zeitler go for a one-year, $9 million deal. I would expect Scherff to be somewhere in that same range, anywhere between $6 to $9 million per season. Likely going to be 1 year because he is an older player, but he would provide you stability and experience at that left guard spot, and I want a veteran in between Aaron Brewer and Patrick Paul for Miami upcoming this year. Still not saying I'm not drafting one, but I think it would be helpful to start a veteran since Paul is your starting left tackle. All right, my fifth free agent target for Miami is one that I labeled as a top one early on, that being Julian Blackmon, the safety from the Indianapolis Colts, who I'm kind of stunned is still out there, if I'm going to be completely honest. I'm a big fan of Blackmon. I mentioned him a ton as a target for Miami. He had a QB rating when targeted last year at 92. Missed tackle percentage of 15%, only allowed at about a 64% completion percentage as well. He is one of the better cover safeties out there, but he's undersized and he struggles sometimes in terms of tackling, which is why I think he's still out there. But if the Dolphins were to go out and sign another safety after Melifonwu and Ashtyn Davis, Julian Blackmon would certainly be my top one. All right, we're going to get to 5 more free agents that I think the Dolphins could still target. But we are sponsored by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy sports platform I play every single day because it's so easy. All you do is pick more or less on 2 or more player stat projections, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money right now. And you can play professional. You can play college. You can go to different leagues, whether it's baseball, hockey, basketball. It's truly the best way to get in on the sports action, as it's legal in more than 30 states, including California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Think Steph Curry will get more than 35 points. Giannis more than 3 threes. You can play and cook up your hot takes with your friends and run your game on Prize Picks all season long. And you can do daily entries. You can do season-long entries. I've got an entry for baseball as it's coming up this next week. More than Paul Skeens and Tarek Skubal strikeouts, more than Jaron Duran home runs. Like I mentioned, you go season long, daily. You can customize the way you play, combine player projections. It's truly so much fun. So join me and the millions others on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Coming in at number 6 on my list, we're going back to the offensive line. Left guard Will Hernandez, a player that has had up and downs in his professional career, but his highs are very, very high. Former second-round pick for the New York Giants, played last year in Arizona, only played in 5 games because he suffered a knee injury that took him out for the entire season. But Hernandez is someone who fits this Dolphins scheme. He's an athletic guy. He would fit in that zone run blocking scheme Mike McDaniel runs. It would make a lot of sense. You just would be really relying on him staying healthy, which is the reason why he is behind Brandon Scherff, in my opinion, in terms of offensive line targets. It is going to be a little bit sketchy if they were to sign Will Hernandez. I'd be very happy. I'd be through the roof to add him. But signing 2 guards that are coming back from major injuries and only played 5 games last season could be dicey. The risk is very, very high, but the reward is also very high as well. Will Hernandez is someone I'm certainly interested in. All right, we're going to go back to the safety room here. Justin Simmons, the veteran who played a lot of time in Denver, signed a 1-year deal in Atlanta last year and formed a pretty solid safety tandem with Jesse Bates for the Atlanta Falcons. And I think it's going to be a similar offseason for Simmons as it was last year. He didn't sign until really, really close to the season. I believe he signed either in late July or August during training camp, and he had a pretty solid year for the Falcons. He's not the player that he was for the Denver Broncos when he was a consensus top 5 safety by any stretch of the imagination. But if the draft board doesn't fall your way in late April and Simmons is still out there and you just didn't like the value or any of the safety prospects that were on the board for your individual picks, and you still need a top safety to lead this room with Melifonwu, Ashtyn Davis, Campbell, and McMorris after the draft, I think Simmons could be a really good addition on a one-year deal. And if I'm going to be honest, I talked about Blackmon as my 5th best free agent out there right now. I don't think Miami ultimately signs a safety in free agency before the NFL draft. I think they made the moves of Melifonwu, Davis, and bring back Campbell to have those 4 on the roster, because you do have the 6th rounder from last year, Patrick McMorris, returning. Melifonwu and Davis are a fine 2-3 safety tandem. And with McMorris kind of coming on of late, be your safety 4, I think they're going to look to draft one, whether it's in the first round, Jahdae Barron, Nic Rohloff, Malachi Starks, or in the second round with Xavier Watts or other guys. The only way they sign a safety, in my opinion, is the situation I just mentioned, where they ultimately don't have the board fall their way. They go other positions like defensive line, corner, and offensive line in the draft, and they want more experienced veteran in that group at safety. All right, number 8 here is Teven Jenkins, the injury-tested offensive line. Jenkins is visiting some teams in free agency, is a left guard player. He is actually really good when he plays football. The issue, he is consistently injured. I know that might be scary for some Dolphins fans. It certainly does scare me, which is why I would have him behind both Will Hernandez and Brandon Scherff. Hernandez coming off injury, but he isn't as consistently injured as Jenkins is. It's either neck, back, lower body injuries with Jenkins. But like I mentioned, it's hard to pass up on him because when he is on the football field, he is very, very good. It's just a gamble, and if he's getting a contract that is close to $8-9 million per season like Mekhi Becton just got, that's going to turn a lot of teams off. If you could get him for a 1-year or a 2-year, $10 million deal and just take a flyer on a good, talented football player who just has injury-riddled history, I would do that, but I would not be giving him close to $10 million per season. All right, coming in at number 9 right here is Stephon Gilmore, the cornerback who has bounced around the league, played for the Bills, played for the Patriots. Could he make another stop in the AFC East? Well, he played for the Vikings last year after playing a couple seasons in Dallas, and Gilmore was still pretty good. I'm not going to act like he's that defensive player of the year type corner he was in 2019 for the Patriots, but he did put up good numbers. And yeah, he's older, but listen, the Dolphins don't have a lot of money to spend in free agency. And if they draft a corner like Will Johnson in the first round, I'd be cool with that. Or if they go Jahdae Barron, like I mentioned, who could play corner or go in the second round as well. Like, I'm cool having a rookie be your opposite boundary corner to Ramsey, but I think it would benefit this team to have a proven veteran that can line up on the outside. Gilmore and Ramsey would be a lot of fun. Yeah, Stephon's about 33, 34 years old, but I still think he's got a good solid year, 2 years left in him before he really starts to decline, and I would definitely sign him on a 1-year, $5 million, 1-year, $6 million deal. Gilmore, to me, is going to be similar to Simmons. It's a call Miami would probably only make if it was after the NFL draft and they didn't address corner to their liking. All right, one more free agent to come, but let me know what your thoughts are on the Dolphins' biggest need. I think the biggest need is defensive line and then that corner 2 spot, but let me know, what position does Chris Grier absolutely need to upgrade and sign in free agency right now? The final free agent target I'm going to look at today is one that was on the roster last year, just like Calais Campbell, and it's on the defensive line, Benito Jones, a true nose tackle type of guy who's a run stuffer. He's not going to provide anything for you in the pass rushing game, but I thought Jones was actually pretty solid for the Dolphins in rotation with Zach Sealer and Calais Campbell as that nose tackle up front. And Miami was going to look to try to upgrade from Benito Jones in free agency, but they didn't strike a deal with any of those top guys out there, like a BJ Hill or a Levi from the Detroit Lions. So I would be fine bringing Benito back on a very cheap 1-year deal, but I also would not be promising him a lot of playing time because I still would look to probably draft a defensive lineman. I think that might be Dolphins' biggest need in the draft whether they do it in the second round with a guy like TJ Sanders from South Carolina, in the first round, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon. There's a lot of good defensive linemen out there. Kenneth Grant as well. So this is a deep draft class at safety. It's a deep draft class at tight end. It's a deep draft class at defensive line. So it'll be fascinating to see how Miami handles the rest of this offseason in free agency and the draft. And we'll have you covered the entire way this offseason into this upcoming 2025 year, which is so pivotal for this Dolphins organization. Could be Mike McDaniel and Chris Grier's last year in Miami if they do not perform well and get to the postseason. And I would argue win a playoff game. But offseason's still here, and it's still going to be long. So make sure you're subscribed.